Three-pointers have completely changed the game. For the Houston Rockets, that three-point shot is not just part of their game, it's their entire attack. Their star player, James Harden, has already launched 188 attempts in 17 games this season. That's more attempts than 9 teams over the entire 1979-1980 season, the first year of the three-point line. Tonight, we begin our deep dive into a 5-part series on the history of the shot and where it's going. Here's episode 1, Three-Point Revolution, presented by JBL.
From the time that we're little, everything has come in threes. 3 little pigs. Goldilocks had 3 bears. And who would the 2 blind mice really be without their BFF? From the 3 Stooges to the Nina Pinta and the Santa Maria, and yes, even life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Literally everything has come in threes. So why would the great game of basketball be any different? It's funny you should ask, because despite the immeasurable impact it has now, the idea of utilizing the 3 almost never got off the ground. During the course of this 5-part series, we share the story, from altering coaching philosophies, to advancing analytics, to changing the big man forever. What began as a fierce debate has become the three-point revolution. The three-pointer was actually first tested way back in 1945 in college, but it never truly stuck until the inception of the ABA in the late 60s, when then Commissioner the great George Mikan said he felt the 3 would, quote, give smaller players the chance to score and open up the defense to make the game more enjoyable for fans. Has it ever? At the time, however, this was not an obvious ideal. In fact, there were many who were skeptical and thought that it was nothing more than just a gimmick.
Well, when I was in the NBA, I thought it was a gimmick.
People had kind of a dismissive feeling about it, that maybe it was a bit gimmicky, maybe it was a bad shot because it was so far out.
That said, what made this such a fascinating debate at the time was just how split the conversation truly was.
I was very supportive. I really believe that it would be another positive thing for the game, because here's an opportunity when the team is down that by making some threes can give you a chance to cut into a big deficit.
I remember the most outspoken was Brett Arbach. He really, I think, despised the ABA. I don't know what he said about the three-pointer, but I know he didn't appreciate that either.
While the debate continued to rage back then, there's no debating how much Dampier wishes he was playing now. Nobody made more threes in ABA history, but his 794 in an 8-year span doesn't look like much when you consider Steph Curry has made over 770 threes over the last 2+ seasons, which almost surpasses Dampier's 8-year total of 794. It's pretty safe to say Dampier's bank account would be flooded if he played in today's NBA environment. And speaking of money, back then, the ABA would use the three-pointer and, yes, the slam dunk to try and compete financially with the NBA. Now, we all know it doesn't take the NBA long to catch on. So marketing savages that they are, the league would follow suit and adopt the three-point line back in the 79-80 season, with then Celtic Chris Ford hitting the first one ever reported on October 12, 1979.
It's amazing, actually, in retrospect, that this trend didn't happen earlier. That's what I always think. And there was a lot of talk about it, but people never really emphasized it. A couple of guys would shoot them once in a while. Larry Bird would shoot one once in a while. But, we were taking 1 or 2 a game at the most.
Yet still, even with the best in the game hopping on board, not everyone was keen on the use of the 3, or whether it was even necessary. Take the Denver Nuggets, for example.
During the era that I played, the three-point shot was not there. So the Denver Nuggets scored a lot of points without having the three-point shot.
Maybe English and his teammates were onto something. Nobody scored more than the Nuggets did in the early to mid-'80s. Even had a season in 81-82 where they scored over 100 points every single game. In fact, in 1983, when the Nuggets combined with the Pistons to score 370 points, which is still the highest scoring game ever, the two teams combined for 2 total three-pointers on just 4 combined attempts. The three-pointer was here. Some were on board, others not so much. How would the next chapter in the three-point revolution be written?
Sam, you played for the Indiana Pacers with one of the greatest shooters of all time in Reggie Miller, but he didn't have the green light like these guys today.
No, back in the day when I played
different.
for the Pacers, look, Larry Brown had rules, and I remember one stretch of about a week a game, Reggie would come down early in the first quarter in transition and pull up for a three. And at that time, Larry wanted us to take the ball to the basket, get the guaranteed two. So what Larry Brown started doing was taking Reggie out of the game when he take a three. So after about
and that's Reggie Miller.
This is Reggie Miller. So after about the third game, Reggie coming out, 3-4 minutes into the game, he's trying to figure out what's going on. So by the third game, he comes down, same scenario. Hayward Workman kicks it to him. This time he looks like he's going up for the three, but he pump fakes and drives to the basket, lays it down. Larry Brown walks down to the bench and the rest of us and say, it only took him 3 games to figure out why he was coming out in the first quarter. But it just goes back to show you. The three-point, we didn't even talk about the three-point shot that much. And now Larry told Byron, Scott, and Reggie in certain situations in the fourth quarter, if we're down 3 or if the score tied, and we have numbers and we have an opportunity to cover the glass if he missed, that was fine. But he didn't want us taking threes like that. It had to be a special situation, and it was only 2 guys who were allowed to shoot them, Reggie Miller and Byron Scott.
Drew, your last year in the NBA, you averaged a career high in three-pointers, 1.4 a game, 2015, 2016 for the Washington Wizards. Give it up for that. But how did that change during your career? Because early on, it was like, you're a big man. Don't go out there.
Well, first and foremost, that was my last year in the league. I probably shot myself out of the league shooting those threes. But I'll tell you what, it was a point in time where I was a free agent, and teams were looking for a stretch four. And I was a traditional power forward most of my career. But as you can see in these highlights right here, I had to stretch my game and have guys come out and respect the three-point shot for the defense to have longer rotations and respect outside shooting, and that happened right there. And I didn't know I had one of the best point guards in the world, and John Wall, to find me too.
Now we have centers shooting a lot of three-pointers.
We don't have centers anymore. We have basketball players, skilled basketball.
I like it.
There are no more positions.
I like it.
Let's say 7-footers.
Okay.
Is that fit? We have 7-footers shooting three-pointers. I mean, where can it go from here? What's next? Are we going to see a de-evolution of it and guys going back inside, or are we going to see it increase?
I think it's going to increase, and I think guys are going to get better at shooting it through. You look at the numbers, and you look at the scoring in the NBA. The scoring is up. People percentages. At one point about 4 or 5 years ago, Drew, people shooting percentages was dropping. All these young guys coming in the league couldn't shoot. Well, now they're working on their skill. 2 things, ball handling and shooting. If you can do those 2 things, you can play in this league. And so when you look at the training and people practicing and working on that shot, it's going to become even more of a weapon, and you really have to guard guys. Look, forget that three-point line. You got to guard guys 4 or 5 feet behind that line to the hash marks now, because I watch guys routinely pull up at the hash marks, and they're knocking that three down with ease.
Maybe they should get 4 points for that, Drew.
I'm thinking the next thing is a 4-point shot.
Absolutely.
Or we either scoot the three-point line further back. I mean, they did it in college, and I think that's why we see these younger guys coming in actually being able to shoot a three-pointer at a high clip, is because they have actually moved back the college line. The college line is the FIBA line right now. I think I'm right on this. And that is saying right now, if college is doing it and these guys are coming in, they're already evolution to come in and shoot this three. Do we scoot the line back, or do we see a 4-point shot?
Teams are more willing now. You saw the highlights earlier. Teams are more willing now to give up a lob for 2 points than to give up 3. You saw the Boston Celtics. They try to stay at home on those 3-point shooters because they don't want guys making threes. They'd rather give up 2 than 3.